everyone. It is the Just a Couple of Bagels podcast. It is day 523 in lockdown, and I'm starting to lose my mind a little bit. But luckily, I can lose my mind with Sam Brown. How are you?
I've lost my mind, mate. It's gone. I'm so bored.
You know what? The first lockdown, I felt I'd dealt with it really well. Didn't really have any sort of inklings or anything. Second lockdown, it was a month. Got through it. There was things that kept me occupied. This one just seems a little bit different.
It's dragging. It's really dragging. It's a long one. Really feeling this one.
It's a combination of one that sort of this is a new experience type thing that was in the first one, not really in the second one. But then also it's just that January, February rubbish weather type thing that's keeping you indoors.
Yeah.
But we plod along.
Yeah, exactly. To be fair, I don't even think it's keeping indoors. And this is like because I'm going outside still. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's just different. I don't know why, but it's definitely different. It needs to go.
Well, there has been some tennis to watch at least.
I've been some. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, obviously, they had a little bit of scare in the hotel. One of the workers getting it, but the Australian Open's still going ahead as well. So that's good. It's all good.
Have you watched any of the ATP Cup at all?
Not a lot. I have work because I still work. PBE, and I'm really because obviously in Australia the time's a little bit late for me, so I don't get to watch much, unfortunately.
I tried watching it, and I like the idea of team sports going into individual sports. I quite like that. So there's a team element with it, and it gets quite feisty. It's quite nice.
Yeah.
This one just felt a little bit flat.
No, a crowd did it.
They have had. It's a depleted crowd, but there's a crowd in there anyway. But
I think team sports like that, it's like the Ryder Cup or the Davis Cup. It needs crowd to get it going. Otherwise, stuff like that, I don't really think it works as well. You really do need a crowd to get behind you to get the atmosphere going. And a depleted crowd doesn't really do that, I don't think.
No, it was just a bit of a hard watch, really, because I always compare it to the Laver Cup, which is what they have when they have like the sort of, as you say, the Ryder Cup style Team Europe versus Team World. And it's just a little bit below. I don't know that it's the atmosphere, as like you said, or it's the players that are on the show. There's just something missing with it.
No, yeah, I guess so. It's a tough one. We'll see how it goes when there's crowds back.
Right, let's get into the main topic of this podcast, where we're going to be pitching our ideas for the dream club we would like to run.
Dream tennis club. Wow.
Have you taken much thought in this?
I haven't been thinking about this thing yet since I was like a kid. We always, and Mark, me and a few mates, and we always used to joke about $1 billion tennis club idea. We're going to take over the whole Macclesfield complex. You know where Mac Tennis Club is. Obviously, those who don't know Mac Tennis Club, it's inside like a learning complex. So it's got the Macclesfield College and the Macclesfield High School. And we're going to take it all over, all the buildings, and make it into like a massive. We're going to host the 5th major. fifth Grand Slam, and it was going to be the thing is it was going to be not every surface was going to be different, so you didn't know what you were going to be playing on each day. I was really going to jazz it up.
Ooh, I like that.
You might have got shale one day, you know, if the organisers didn't like it, you're in the shale today.
I like that idea. I do like that idea. So are you going on the scale of an Australian Open Melbourne Park sort of thing?
Yeah. Huge.
Right. So we're going to have two different... That's quite good, actually, got this right. I'm going off the bat of if you took a bog standard English club and wanted to renovate it That's what I'm
So
going off.
like Pressbury.
Yeah, if you took a Pressbury and wanted to make it better,
Okay.
that's what I'm going.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so some oligarch comes over and says, "I've got all this money to make this club the best
Yeah.
club in England." That's what we're doing.
Okay.
Nice.
Cool.
Let's get started. The first bit I've got for my idea is I went off sort of to another sport, the Manchester United type academy sort of thing, where I had a set of principles that I wanted the club to
Okay.
follow. Have you had much thought
Yeah.
in that?
Principles the class to follow. Okay. You go. You go first. See what you
Right.
got.
So I split it up. I had principles for the juniors and principles for the adults. So I'll
Okay.
start with the adults. And we touched on this a little bit when we were going through our Room 101. But I've
Okay.
titled the first principle as Everybody with Everybody.
Oh. Okay.
So there should be the attitude that you should be able to play with anybody no matter what standard they are and not kick up a fuss. I quite like that.
So would you say the aptitude over attitude?
Yes, I like that's a very good saying. I quite like that. So, the second point I had was never too old to learn, because personally, from a coach's point of view, when you look at the adult section, there's quite a good group of players who get coaching. It's quite good, but then there seems to be another almost half of the membership that don't have any coaching at all.
Yeah. I don't know if that's because, to be honest with you, if they don't want, I think a lot of old people just are so stuck in their ways that they don't want coaching at times because they're just too stubborn for it. So it's convincing them.
Yes,
It's how you convince them to do that, which is the tough one. But it's right idea. Good idea.
I quite like it. And the last one, which I thought of you in mind for this for the adults, is youth comes first.
Youth comes first. Okay.
So the
Okay.
idea, so you've talked
Explain.
about this with some clubs where adults will see juniors practicing on court and
Take
sort
them
of
off.
resent it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. No. 100%. That's definitely that needs to become more of a thing across every single club. I think.
Well, because in my opinion, the junior members are the ones that if you're going to ask the question, which matters most, the junior or the adult membership, which matters most, I think the junior edges it a little bit.
Juniors of the future.
That's the point. If you can retain all these juniors, then you get a lot of people who sort of develop an attachment to the club and care about the club.
Exactly. Exactly. It's just unfortunately, the old members are the ones as a committee and the ones who run things, and they just don't always see a junior's point of view. But that's where we are at the moment in most clubs.
Very true. I'll run through very quickly my junior principles because they're sort of quite self-explanatory. The first one is don't be afraid to compete, especially when I started coaching and helping out. There was definitely with a few kids they didn't really like playing matches,
Yeah,
just for I'm guessing from the fear of losing, because with an individual sport, it's quite horrible when you lose on your own.
I think it's learning how to lose, but it's also I think a lot of times parents can affect that. Or if you got a bad coach who puts a lot of pressure on you to win, and you don't fear losing, you fear the coach, or you fear your parents.
Very true. I just think it's quite good to encourage definitely kids from younger age, even if it's like floor tennis or something, have that sort of sense of competition, build it up throughout so people know. Because
Yeah.
when you go to a tennis lesson and you learn how to play tennis, you're not actually playing tennis.
No, you're not. You're just learning drill. You're learning the exercise.
It's the
But
equivalent of it's like if you go to a football training session, instead of playing a football match, you're just sort of passing it around a few cones. That's the equivalent of it.
the issue we have here is not tennis clubs at times, it's schools who have implemented it's the taking part that counts as attitude in sport. And it takes away the competitive edge of children because they don't get rewarded for winning, they get rewarded for taking part.
Yeah. But definitely from a young age, if you can sort of get that enjoyment just from competing in general and just sort of getting rid of the win or lose situation, I think it helps people a lot.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
The other two things which are quite self-explanatory, working hard, which we spoke with Yarrick quite a lot in the last podcast.
Yeah.
You want kids to be coming off sweating both from mini red all the way up to your under 18s.
Yeah.
You want them to feel like they've worked hard. And the last bit, which I quite like, and some coaches probably won't like this, but I like the idea of expressing yourself technically wise, if that makes sense. So you shouldn't discourage a child if they want to pursue having a one-handed backhand,
Yeah.
that sort
No, I
of
agree
thing.
with that. No, I agree with that. That's good. Yeah, it's down to the player at the end of the day, isn't it? If they don't feel comfortable doing one thing, then it's not really a lot you can do about it. You just got to let them do it, and you got to work with that.
Plus, you can build up a variety of different players at your club, which might improve the overall standard because you're not teaching every child exactly the same with the same technique. So it's all
Yeah, no,
uniform.
that's 100% true. Yeah, 100%.
Right, I'm very interested now. What have you got?
So yeah, I think I take a lot of the same principles. What I'd add in, I don't know if it's principle, but it's more like a mentoring scheme to encourage. It's just to have someone to look up to. So from you can color code, you can do what you want, but you're under 18s. They're kind of like the people you want to look up to in the club. So as like a mini junior, like as a really young kid who's like maybe 5, just starting out, he's like, I want that sort of a program that he looks up to the under 18. That's what he wants to become to. So it's sort of a mentoring scheme. The under 18s are really the big face of the club. They're the ones everyone wants to be, become. So it's a lot of emphasis on a, you said a code of conduct, but it's like when how they, can't think of the word, which is really annoying right now.
How they conduct themselves.
Yeah, how they conduct, that's the word. How they conduct themselves around the club. I think I'd put a lot of emphasis on the under 18s and around that age, the 18 to 21-year-olds, because they're the ones who really have a big impact on the club. They are the face of the club. They're the ones who are going out competing in the bigger tournaments. So that's what I'd want from the club, 100%. And then the adults, where you turn into if you're not making it as the player, which most of them, the majority of them won't at the end of the day, there's that structure there for them to be able to become a coach. They do their badges. They start at 16. You help them start with their coaching badges, because then it allows them to have something to fall back onto.
You've nabbed one of my little bits there. I was going to put that in that was in my little coaching section. That all the teens should be encouraged to do level 1s and level 2s.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing, and I've seen it at other clubs. When you have those sort of 16, 17-year-olds helping out, it can really add to the sessions. The kids like them there. They're sort of that, what's the word? They bridge the gap between you as a coach and an adult.
Role model would be the word.
Yeah, the
They can be like
small
a role
little
model.
kid. Yeah.
Yeah. The person the kids look up to.
They can relate to them a little bit more because they're closer to their age.
Yes.
Which is
100%.
No, I think we all agree on what our principles for our club should be.
Yeah.
We can always mash the two together. Shall we? Because I touched on the coaching bit. Shall we move straight on to the coaching bit? Yes, you can start this time.
Okay, so I'd split the way it works. So I'd have an overall head coach. So you got your main head coach, who's more of an admin head coach. He's like the top, and then there's gonna be branched out. So your main guy, so you got head coach of the main club, and then you got your head performance coach, and then you have head sort of club coach. So it allows them to work on their own things. So you have one guy he's going to take the really good kids coming up from being young all the way up to the under 18s, under like 21s, and he's going to control that program on his own. Obviously, the main head coach, can look over it all, but his job is mainly to look after then kind of smaller group of kids, because obviously not everyone's going to fit into that. You know, the head coach of this league, like of the main group of the groups, you know, just then concentrates on that. You know, how he can, you know, make sure tennis is fun for them, and you know, hopefully try and train them up so they can enter into the performance academy. So there's kind of two sections of the club. You know, the aim is always try and get the kids into the performance section, but then at least there's a coach who's going to be fully concentrating on the kids who aren't as good, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that. So you've basically got two coaches and then an admin guy at the top of your pyramid.
Yeah.
If you want to think of it
Yeah.
like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Quite
And
I
then
didn't really think of that.
there'll be sub branches, you know, from the performance coach to be, you know, more on the performance side. It's a lot easier to get sub branches, because then you have your fitness teams and, you know, nutritionists and all that. You know, just the way I'm imagining my club, it's massive.
Yes, because your club's in your mind is that grand scheme, so you need a lot more people. But I like
Yeah.
that.
And then obviously the head coach is the sort of I don't know what you'd call it, just you don't want to call it the normal groups, but for now we'll call it the normal groups.
You've sort of got a performance side and a social side.
Yeah, more social side. Yeah, you know, sort of. Yeah, that's the way of putting it. Yeah.
Okay, well, mine's not really too dissimilar, because I'm thinking of mine as sort of 8 to 10 court
Yeah.
leafy green English tennis club. I went with two
Yeah.
senior coaches, so level 4s and your level 5s. One, bit like you, is more of a club coach route, does the admin and what have you.
Yeah.
And then the other one is your performance one. So
Yeah.
looks after more of the higher quality players, nurtures those. And then below them, I had the idea of having about 2 or 3 level 3 coaches. So a little bit like in the mold of you and I, whether it's sort
Yeah.
of in your 20s, trying to learn a little bit more. So you've sort of got that mentoring ship from the senior coaches up there, but are quite
Yeah.
functional to do individuals and group lessons.
So on the performance side, it's, you know, if you're the top of the performance academy, you're pretty much down at the club every day. You know, the head coaches, from the point of view of just going to the performance academy, I imagine it won't be that big. You might only have like maybe 5 or 6 kids from each age group, but they're coming down every day, you know, before school, after school, and retraining. So that's kind of an entity on its own. But from the point of view of that, there's the social side, really heavily built up on the mini tennis, you know, or whatever, youth tennis for, you know, the youth tennis kids thing that's going through. Really, you know, pushing on getting into schools, getting people involved around the club, because obviously when you've got, from a starting point of view, if you've got a really big red section, you know, young kids, they're gonna you know, carry on moving up every year into the other sections, and they're gonna flood the program, which is what you want, because that's where the money is. So much money in mini red tennis. So that'd be my idea. Would be to really push the younger side of it, the beginner kids section, to get in money.
Very
The performance side, let's say, is kind of an entity to its own. It'll be run by a really, like, more of an elite performance tennis coach who's, you know, training these kids really hard every day.
okay. I like that. When I was looking at the program, because I've worked in different types of clubs and seen how different picks, I've sort of cherry picked the bits that I thought worked best from all of them. And the main thing that I liked from working at an indoor centre was, if you go through with the juniors, for say, that you've got the red, orange, green, and yellow ball,
Yeah,
sort of splitting them up into 3 different categories. So you have a beginner group, an intermediate group, and then an advanced group. I think that's quite good, so you know what level you think. But I wouldn't call them that, because people sort of get a little bit funny with, oh, my son or daughter's in the beginner group,
When
and
I
it doesn't sound
when
as
I
fun.
was at Lloyd, when I was at Lloyd's, they did like the colours. So like he was in, I think the first level was silver, and then he went to silver plus, then gold plus, and then he was in performance academy. That's how it was run when I was there as a kid.
I just check. All I do is change the name. So instead of beginner being called beginner, I'd put it as the introductory group. So the idea is it's a bit like the Adult Express, where you're not really meant to be in there that long. Your intermediate is what I'd probably call your social one. So it's the kids who just want to hit a load of balls, that sort of thing. I'd go with, for the advanced one, I'd call it team. So it's your kids who are playing and representing your club. Right. Then the other idea I had was to finally sort out club nights for kids. So the problem that we have is that anyone and everyone can turn up. So what I wanted to do is change it very slightly, because in COVID times you can only have maximum 15 kids now. And how we do it at Knutsford is that they have to say that they want to come to club night, so you know how many are turning up and all this sort of thing. And I think it works a little bit better, so you know what kid's coming. If you know the kid, you know what level they're going to be. I think it just makes it a little bit easier, because if you end up with, let's say, 5 boys turn up and only 2 girls turn up, it's going to be a little bit sort of mismatched, if that makes sense.
It's always hard to coach when you don't know what you're getting. It's hard to plan for
it. Other little things that I've quite liked, especially from this COVID time, is having that little buffer between 2 sessions. So I think it's 10 minutes we're advised to give. So I think if you have 2 club nights, say if you have the younger ones and then you have the older club nights, having that 10-minute buffer, I definitely add into club night sessions, because otherwise you end up with about 30 kids mixing and matching. You have no idea who's coming and who's going. It's definitely something I bring in.
Well, I think, especially with just getting prepared for the next lesson, sometimes you only got like a couple of minutes, like you've got 1 minute between each session. It's really hard to get, some equipment away. And, if you're doing mini red, you got to get the big net, the nets down, and it's a lot. It takes more than a minute. So I totally agree. Definitely agree with you.
From the adults basis, I've gone with sort of same thing with beginner, intermediate, advanced stuff. Social team, same as the junior one, but then you just call beginner express. So you want to get any beginner adults in, get them up to a certain speed where they can play a match, and then move them up.
Definitely agree. That's a good idea.
Anything else? Social sessions. Following back on the principle that I had for the adults, is it's just open for everyone. I did have a think about doing sort of a beginner and then an intermediate/advanced social session, but then it sort of makes it a bit hard if someone thinks they're intermediate when they're actually beginner. Then you have to have that funny conversation with people. I just thought it was a little bit too much.
Yeah, 100% spread it all up. Something to aim towards as well.
Yes, yeah, I completely agree. And the other thing that I'd probably have, which I quite like from I think most clubs have, is sort of separate to the social sessions. You have your intermediate and advanced sort of men's and ladies teams match play, which the coach can run. So the coach can have a look and then give little tips and advice, because we've seen it where you have the men's and ladies mornings, but I don't think the coaches participate in it at all or take an interest in it.
I think that's good. That's fair. I don't think it's down to coaches. I think that's down to the members. They just want to go down and play. They don't want the input on how to get better. But
Anything you want to add on that? What you do differently?
I think I do pretty much the same. I think our ideas are pretty much the same. I'm just doing on this massive, scale. But no, I totally agree. I think where yours might be more social. I don't know. I say mine's social based, but I'm concentrating a lot on juniors more than the adult side. I think.
Yeah, I
You
tried
know,
to make it a bit more of sort of a 50-50 split.
20. Already pushing the junior section of the club. But juniors is where the future's at, Tom.
Very true, very true. Do you want to talk about facilities?
Facilities, Tom. But yes. So for me, I've got an indoor facility which will hold maybe 15, 12, 15 courts.
Yeah.
Inside, it'll all be all hard courts inside. On this carpet rubbish. Outside, it's going to be a bit of a race. We'll have hard courts outside, and then we'll have clay as well. We'll have Euro clay. But I think the clay it'll only be used kind of like from Easter for this Easter to like the end of summer, and then it'll be back onto the hard courts. I will have Astra as well, support of Astra.
Yeah.
Or well,
Yeah, I think you're right with that. I had a similar idea because I'm looking at a smaller scale. I had 12 courts, 4 indoor hard, 4 clay, and then 4 of the Astro.
definitely, yeah, you need it. I'm not a massive fan of Astra, but in this climate, we need it. And so I'll also have grass.
That's not a bad idea.
And then there'll be a stand stadium, like a little grandstand. Arena. But it's just because of the kind of scale I'm going on.
I'll have to. Did you ever see when I did my A-level product design? My coursework was designing a tennis complex.
That's it.
Don't know if they still have that stadium. I think I've still got some of the designs somewhere. Very similar to think of what you want, had sort of a main stadium and then loads of courts dotted around it and all that sort of stuff.
Definitely, yeah, that's the idea.
The little thing that I wanted to add with mine, I added 2 little things which I don't think many clubs have, is obviously at Prestbury where we both work and play, we have a dedicated sort of mini court for mini red. So I decided to put 2 of those in with practice walls on. So instead of putting all the mini nets up over one court, if you have, say, like a private session with like a mini red player, put them on there. So it takes them out of the way.
Good. You can also get in America they have orange size courts made. Proper courts.
Oh yeah, I remember that. The other thing, which is what the LTA will love, is I'd like to put a paddle court in.
I also agree with you there. Good idea.
Because have you ever played paddle? I haven't played it yet, even though the LTA is really pushing it.
Game, really fun. Played it in Spain. You should play it. It was really good.
Well, there is talk, isn't there, at Prestbury of putting one in. They want to put a paddle court in.
You'll get a lot of money as well. It's a great sport. It's gonna be good. It's a really fun sport to play.
Very good. Moving on to more facilities. I had big plans for the clubhouse, and the main thing that I wanted to do with a clubhouse, say if you look at like Prestbury and Knutsford, is I'd like to make it 2-story, so you almost have like a viewing balcony at the top, so you can look up all the courts and watch if there's a competition going on. You can see everyone playing rather than just going over to one court and watching that. I thought that'd be quite a good idea.
Yeah, very modern feel about it.
And then you have your usual stuff: bars, seating area, all this sort of stuff, kitchen, toilets. Very boring things. Don't think there's any more I can add. Is there anything else you want to add of what you do with your place?
Because of the scale, we're going to have a gym.
Very nice.
Gym facilities all free, career sort of free for injuries and whatnot. But yeah, yours is more realistic. Mine's pipe dream.
I think that we've just put our friendship in a nutshell there. I'm the level-headed one, and you're the one with all the ideas.
It works though. It works.
It does. It does. It cancels each other out and just makes us very normal. Or I'd like to think very normal.
Right, now I think we shall move on to the part where we talk about anything but tennis.
So travel, wasn't it?
Yes, countries that you'd most like to visit that you haven't already visited.
Oh, I'd like to. It's not really tennis related. I'd like to go to Iceland.
Ooh. I've had family members go to Iceland and they were very impressed with it. What draws you to Iceland?
Always supposed wanted to go. I don't know why. Obviously, I'd like to go see you can see the Northern Lights there, can't you? And the hot springs, and I think it'd be really like a kind of cool country to go visit. A bit different, compared to the normal European countries. We go to like Spain and whatnot. I think Iceland's definitely it's just different culture.
Very nice. I think I can lead on with that one. The one I'd probably go and visit is Japan, for similar reasons to what you said. There isn't really a standout reason to go, but because it's a completely different culture to what we have here.
It's just different, isn't it?
I don't know what I'd think about the food though, because I'm not the biggest fan on sushi.
I imagine there's Western sort of areas in Japan.
Yes.
Yeah, Western.
But all the technology, I hear it's very, very clean. All the taxi drivers wear gloves. All this attention to detail, I thought would be really good. Have you got one more?
But maybe it's just slightly different. I think Fiji, off the coast.
Ooh.
It's a bit of an island, a bit very different. It'd be very much off the beaten track because you got like say Iceland, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, but they're all very much on the beaten track. I think Fiji's a little bit, it's a small island. Very different community, different way completely. Even Japan, you say Japan is different culture. I think Fiji would be completely different because it's not got all the advancements that we have. Very small island.
Okay.
Interesting experience.
That's quite a good one because I wouldn't imagine many people think, oh, I want to go to Fiji for a holiday. So you probably wouldn't get as many tourists. So it'd be a very real experience.
What about you? Last one?
Last one, Italy. Just from watching films like The Italian Job, when you look at when Top Gear or the Grand Tour go off to do a road trip and they go to Italy, more specifically the Italian lakes, scenery, having a nice little sporty car that's a convertible driving round, eating nice food. I think it'd make a really good road trip, actually, Italy.
Venice is a very cool place.
And now you're just making me pine to go on holiday now. I think we've come to the end of another podcast, sir.
Good ending.
Good, so you can now think about the times you could have spent in Fiji, and I'm going to think about the food I could eat in Italy, but we can't.
It's very sad.
But at least we figured out how to make the perfect club.
Just needs to get the money for it now.
Yes, you don't happen to know anyone who's got a spare few million about.
I don't ask so much.
Right, on that note, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for listening to this Just a Couple of Bagels podcast. Please make sure you like and subscribe, and we hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.